Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Powerful on Purpose. And this is a special episode because it's relating to the book, Wake Up Revolution, where we're talking to fabulous women, as always, but really fabulous women who have a message to share, that their business is more of a mission, that they would be doing this even if they didn't get paid. But we all like to get paid at the end of the day. So I am super excited for our guest today. It is Denise Stiffler, and she's going to tell you a little bit about what she does and her story and give us a little insight and maybe some words of wisdom that you can take down the road with you. So, welcome, Denise. Super excited to have you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. It's always a joy to have you in my world. So, tell our listeners what you do and what made it matter enough to you to build a life around it.
Wow. Okay. So I'm a certified life coach, and my ideal client would be somebody who is in the process of healing from harmful or toxic relationships. So whether that be from a family system, a work environment, a romantic relationship, anything along those lines, friendships, things like that. The healing from that, I've learned from my own personal experience, is very nuanced, and it can be a really challenging journey, and one that has a lot of ups and downs and a lot of confusion in it sometimes as well. And so I'm just really passionate about helping people find their way out of those situations, through those situations, and then onto a much more healthy life. So I have my life coaching, and then I also am a co-founder of a women's ministry. We started as a podcast in May of 2024. It's called From Rundown to Renewed. And last year, it genuinely snowballed into a full-blown women's ministry. So we host women's conferences. We just hosted our first webinar in February of 2026. We have guests on our podcast every single week. We do a weekly podcast, and we have healing gift boxes with just a lot of encouragement and uplifting and comfort items for people that are going through hard seasons. We've had a lot of people buy them for people grieving or going through a divorce, or I just had someone order two for her mom and her mother-in-law. Both of them are recovering from just some health surgeries and things like that. And so it has genuinely snowballed into a full-time ministry. And these things are worth building my life around, because I know what it's like to be desperately broken and need healing and need support and community. And the coaching and the ministry offer both of those things.
Right. I love that. And the fact that you talked about the nuances, right? It's not a one and done. It's a process of peeling the onion. Was there a moment that you realized that you couldn't keep doing it the old way?
Yeah, there were a few. I think the biggest one when I was thinking through this was, initially when asked this question, my first answer is going through my divorce. But it was actually what really turned me around was when I learned about my ex-husband's betrayal. And so my divorce was not a mutual decision. Was my ex-husband looked at me one day and just said, "I don't love you anymore." And basically I want out of the situation. And there was nothing that I could do to turn that around, convince him otherwise. And so that was exceptionally jarring, having your life pictured one way and then having it be something completely different when you go to bed that night. But the betrayal I learned of just a few days before I was to sign the divorce papers. And we were separated for a little over a year before everything was final. And I had spent that time grieving and healing and figuring out how to rebuild and what that was going to look like. And I was finally kind of grasping on to some threads of hope and life again. And then I got an email telling me of his girlfriend and her two young children who would be moving in a few short weeks. And this was not someone that I knew about. This was not somebody that my children knew about. And So it was kind of like you come out of a pit and you're holding on to like these shreds of hope and you can see the light, and then you just get shoved back down to the darkest part
Right.
of the pit. I mean, I think how I describe it is it was kind of as though I was walking through my marriage and my separation and my upcoming divorce, and I had this veil on. And so I could see, but not clearly. And I learn about this betrayal, and the veil is off, and I can see clearly. And as I'm in the bottom of this pit in a dark season, yet again, probably darker than before, honestly, I started to think of different memories throughout my marriage and separation of just these seemingly small moments where there were just like these little digs given in conversations and off the wall comments made. And every so often, those things, whatever, not a big deal. We all do it. We all have bad days, right? But that consistency over time absolutely just starts to erode your sense of self and your capability to stand up for yourself and your autonomy. And that's what happened to me. And I didn't see it. I didn't realize it. And so learning about the betrayal was a massive turning point because I knew there's no going back to looking at life the way that I had before. Not in a as though one side is really positive and the other side is really negative, but more so as though one side is very foggy and the other side is clear. And so that was a huge turning point for me. And there were no plans to build anything out of such deep pain, but that's what happened.
Right. And I think sometimes that clarity, while it's a blessing, it's like having that spotlight turned on, right? When you've been in the dark and you're blinded, and yeah.
Yes. 100%. Yes.
Absolutely. So how do you feel your lived experience has shaped the way you lead today?
Yeah. That's a really great question. I think we'll go back a little bit back to the rock bottom. There was a moment in that about a few months into it that I just wanted to give up on everything. And I never felt so desperate like that before. I had no intentions of harm or anything, none. But I just remember sitting in my room and weeping and just unable to function and praying. I just can't do this anymore. I can't keep like getting up and trying and healing and then just being shoved back down. It's so much. It's too much, right? And so I remember getting myself out of bed and going to my bathroom and propping myself up on the counter with my legs crossed like a little girl, honestly, and giving myself the absolute messiest pep talk I've ever given myself. It was messy, but it was basically like, hey, you're worth being here for. And there's so much beauty ahead and you just got to hang on and keep going. And there's so much more to that. And so out of that space, I chose to hang on and I chose to keep going. And eventually that light started to come back. And so I think hitting that rock bottom, I can now understand what it's like to be in the darkest place of your sometimes we need to hit rock bottom and it sucks. I don't love it. I don't like saying that. It's not a pretty answer. It's really not. But sometimes hitting rock bottom is exactly what we need to help us climb up and see life through clarity and through new eyes. And I am genuinely a living testimony that it takes a lot of grit and determination and a whole lot of faith to get yourself out of there. But you can. And so, when I work with women that are in a dark season for whatever reason, right? Like mine was through betrayal. Other people are just in a deep season of grief through loss or in a dark season with their children in whatever capacity that looks like, or walking with aging parents and the heaviness that comes from that. There's so much, right? Like not everyone has my story, but we all walk through hard seasons. And so I really have equal parts compassion for what people are going through, but also hope, because I know that them choosing to heal is what's going to get them through that, right? And so, I have so much compassion and love for women and men, like, who choose to get up.
Right.
Sometimes that is the bravest thing that we can do.
Absolutely. I love that. And what I hear you're saying is helping others learn to lead themselves.
100%, yes.
Because life, it's full of ups and downs. And it doesn't matter. No one is immune to rock bottom, right?
Mm-mm.
Like there's no amount of money that can save you from tragedy. So yeah, learning those lessons and how do we then really not only lead ourselves, but help other people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very
Yeah.
cool. So what do you feel is a truth about women and power that you believe more of us need to hear?
Women and power. Let's go. Okay. That we need to hear today. We're so much stronger than we give ourselves credit for, right? I mean, you see women like in the worst parts of their lives, but they have kids. And so guess what? Like, they have to get out of bed. They have to go to carpool. They have to take them to activities. They have to do the nap times and do all the things. I mean, that's the season of my life that I'm in. So I can speak to that more fully. There's so many other seasons of life where women just embody such strength. And, I think we're all doing a far better job than we're giving ourselves credit for. And we're showing up in ways that are inspiring to others. And a lot of people, we're not always good at telling people what we admire about them. So, and I don't know why that is. We just don't. I think it's like we're as humans, we're more prone to just complain and say nasty things. And I don't care for that, but it is it's an unfortunate reality. But I think that there are so many people around us that actually really admire us and they're just not telling us because it's not natural. So I think, I think women are a force of nature, but because of what's going on up here, and that if that internal talk is really negative, that's where they're going to live from.
Right.
100%. And instead, and I've shared this before with you, you got to talk to yourself like you would talk to your best friend. Because I would never talk to my best friend the way I talk to myself, right? So I think start hyping yourself up. Be your own hype girl. You don't need someone else. It's great to have someone else to be your hype person or lots of people to be your hype people. But you are amazing and you're doing far better than your mental talk is giving you credit for. And my gracious, just keep going.
Yes. And I think that speaks directly to leading yourself, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because you're absolutely right. There's so many women who, and for crying out loud, we can have babies, whether we do or not. We have that technology.
Yes. And we can feed babies with our bodies.
Yeah. And then when you start looking at the other stuff going, you're like, shoot, if I can do that, I can do anything, right?
That's right. 100%. Yes. Whether you choose to or not, your body is still very capable. Yes.
Absolutely. So tell us a little bit about what you're building now that's stretching you beyond your comfort zone.
Honestly, sharing different parts of my story more vocally has been something that I have felt led to. I am in year 3 since a lot of this has happened, and there are pieces of it that I've kept just a little more quiet, and I'm being bolder with some of it in a way that is still respectful but truthful, and that is stretching me because you just don't know what people are gonna say or do with the ugly parts of your life, and there can be a lot of fear there. And well, does anybody really need to hear this part? I can get away with not sharing this part. It doesn't, but truly in my coaching, ideally the people that I work with are people that are healing from these harmful relationships and who have lost their autonomy, but they are doing what they can to lead themselves back to themselves. And so part of that is owning all the parts of your story, all the good and the ugly. So that is definitely stretching me because I think people don't want to work with you if you don't understand their struggle. And so I think a piece of that is being a little more bold in sharing. But then also just having, I mean, my business partner Mackenzie and we are both full-time moms and we have other work that we do. And so, but wanting to pour so much into the ministry as well is the time. You know, building your dreams takes time, and finding that time is interesting. If you want to sleep, you know, if I don't need to sleep, then I would be perfect. I'd be golden.
Great, great. Yeah. So if you could sit across from the woman you were before everything shifted, what would you tell her?
Actually did this the other day because I had a really, really rough week. And I actually sat like in a space and I just pretended that like 3 years ago me was sitting here, and I just told her like, oh, you have no idea like how good it's gonna get. You have no idea. And there are still parts that hurt like hell because that is a hard reality of certain pieces of my life these days. But the pain doesn't eradicate any of the good. It's just they coexist. And you know, I've learned to coexist. And so just looking at her and being like, you can't, you can hold both, and you do hold both because you've built up the capacity to hold both. And again, that strength piece of, you know, you are not giving yourself enough credit right now in this hard moment because who you were 3 years ago, you couldn't even get off the floor. And now you're running laps, you know? So yeah, I would tell her what I shared earlier. You know, you're so much stronger than you realize, and the decisions that you're making right now, those hard choices of healing and pushing and really working through the pain instead of walking around it, they're going to get you to exactly where you want to be.
Wow, that was powerful. And I got to say too, this idea of capacity, right? That we don't go from here to here in one day. It's really
No.
a process. And the
Yeah.
fact that you already sat down and had that conversation and said,
Mhm.
this is one moment in your life.
Yeah. And I think it's, you know, again, because that negative self-talk is so real for all of us, and we're so good at comparing. So, and social media is a highlight reel. So you only see the good. I have, this is a total side note, but I have a friend who is walking through a separation, but they do visitation together. So I see some of his posts and they're all together and you would never know. And I'm just like, you're painting it, but it's not real. And so, I mean, you don't even know. You have no idea. So that capacity piece is huge. And where I am today versus where I'm going to be in another 3 years, she's going to have even more capacity. She's going to have more life lessons under her belt. She's going to have more courage in the hard things because she's choosing to do them all the time. And the hard things might not even, well, they won't be as hard. They might still be hard, but they won't be as hard, you know? So it's so important to give yourself grace and to not compare yourself to yourself or to other people, because that's just harmful.
Right. Well, and every day is a new choice.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah. Didn't like yesterday. Let's choose something different.
We can do something better. Actually, I think it can be good to compare yourself to yourself, because it's like, oh, I'm doing better than I was 2 days ago. Sweet.
Or at least different, right? Sometimes I think better is a term that I'm not sure about, but different.
It can get messy. Better can get messy. I agree with you. Yeah.
Well, so tell us a little bit about what you're building now and how can people step into that with you?
Yeah. Okay. So, I mean, I've shared, we have the women's ministry from Rundown to Renewed. So you can listen to our podcast every single week. Just look up From Rundown to Renewed. We're on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube. And the coaching, if you or someone you know is walking that hard road of healing from those harmful relationships, I would encourage you to not delay in healing and to reach out for just a consult. I do 30-minute consults with people just to kind of see where they're at and see if it's something that they need. Sometimes we're a great fit, and other times they need something a little deeper before they can come to me. And so it kind of depends, but I'm always honest about those assessments. And I have had people reach out to me and we just do, I mean, I always suggest at least 6 weeks. I have a 6-week and a 12-week package, but some people are like a situational thing. And so they just need, hey, I need one phone call with you to work through this. And I've done that as well too. So the coaching is called More Than This Life Coaching. And then the podcast and the ministry are From Rundown to Renewed.
Cool. Well, it's again, pleasure and a blessing to have you here.
Thank you.
Love what you're doing. So glad that that person 3 years ago said, I'm going to go on and change my life and other people's lives. Absolutely. All right. Well, be sure and subscribe to Powerful on Purpose podcast, because you don't want to miss any more conversations like the one we just had with Denise. And you also want to check out our book coming out soon, Wake Up Revolution. And it will include Denise's story as well as other fabulous women.